technological revolution has now come with many benefits that have simplified our lives. However, it's also introduced some drawbacks which have paved a way for crime to flourish. And so police are warning the public on a wave of scams that are spreading through social media platforms, where the modus operandi of these criminals involves targeting potential online buyers under the false pretenses of conducting sales based on their bogus advertisements, of course, based on popular online networking platforms that we've seen. And so earlier this week, 5 alleged Facebook marketplace scammers, they were arrested following a shootout with police. This happened in Midrand in Johannesburg. So to take this discussion further, we're going to be joined by Security Strategist Andy Mashaile. Andy, good morning, and thank you for joining us here on the SABC at this hour. Andy, I think you're on mute. I'm just going to ask you to unmute yourself, and then we can obviously have the conversation. And
good
thank you so.
Good morning, Lizelle, and to yourself and the Heavyweight Champion Show listeners of this Heavyweight Show.
All right. Thank you so much, Andy, for joining us. I mean, on a serious note, we're obviously looking at the benefits that technology has now obviously offered us, but we're also seeing the drawbacks, right? And so when we look at the type of scams that are coming to the fore and the tactics that are being used at this point to lure potential buyers, talk to us about those patterns and those trends that are emerging as we're speaking.
One of the very serious challenges posed by scammers would be the use of Facebook for criminal purposes. Facebook Marketplace would be a wonderful tool for people who want to sell their goods and many of those things that we see people buying online. Some criminals or scammers would advertise a car that is not existent, and they would ask an individual to pay a deposit, and that car would not pitch up. So these are some of the tactics that your cyber criminals are using around your Christmas period and your Valentine's Day period, where people buy many goods over the internet. These criminals would divert. These criminals would request you to meet up with them in a dark alley or somewhere else where it is unsavory, putting your life at stake, as well as physical harm to yourself when you resist, when they want to rob you. And it is critical that we should indicate to people that when you use this marketplace, it is very important that for meetups and exchanges, meet at your police station parking lot, your banks, well-lit areas where you will not be a victim of either physical crime as well as digital and financial crime.
Andy, thank you for painting that succinct picture. I mean, it's worrisome, of course, and thank you for also speaking to some of those vulnerable periods as well, because, you know, when we're looking at how scammers in this day and age are making their posts and their adverts seem more legitimate. I mean, talk to us about the advancements that are coming through as technology is also improving, but also the most vulnerable groups in our society that fall prey to that.
Lizelle, it saddens me to see a sizable majority from a percentage point of view of the victims of cybercrime being ladies. Ladies who buy online, ladies who see beautiful things, whether be they weaves, Brazilian hair, and many of those things. Being a large chunk, 70% of the victims of cybercrime in our country have been recorded to be women. And in that whole space, Lizelle, where we lose money, the cost of cybercrime to South Africans and to the economy is 4.2 billion rands that we lose annually. And that money comes from single mothers who are raising children and women who are trying to make a living, women who are looking for jobs, women who want to buy a knockoff or a cheap phone on the line. If it is an iOS that you and I know that cost about 15,000 and you told it goes for 6,000. That's too good to be true for a state-of-the-art phone or mobile device to can be sold in this marketplace. Do not send your money. If you do send your money, you need to tell the seller that you are going to pay via Facebook checkout or PayPal goods and services, and not PayPal friends and family, because when you use that other app of Facebook, you will not be able to recover money. But when you use Facebook checkout and PayPal goods and services, you have a recall to get a refund from the scammer.
Well, Andy, that's invaluable advice, and thank you for speaking to that, because as we are, trying to protect the most vulnerable, I wonder if you could speak to the role of SAPs and even the Hawks, the efficacy at this point in, prosecuting and investigating online scams as well. What are some of the gaps that also still exist?
We have very serious gaps. My phone was stolen some 2 months back at the funeral in Soweto. And I went to my local police station to request for a case of theft out of motor vehicle, so that I can have a case, so that I can request those who would be able to assist me in terms of tracking down the phone. When I arrived at the police station, the lady at the counter in the CIC, formerly called your church office, did not really have a clue of what is going on, and I didn't pull my rank or my status. I left without that case number. I tracked the phone myself through my international team that I'm leading, and we found it. So this suggests to both you and I that we still have a long way to go. I am happy to say I have learned of the cybercrime unit of the South African Policing Services, but you and I and the viewer would want to have that cybercrime office existing at all the 1,200 plus police stations throughout the country, or the 142 plus police stations in Gauteng. You want to go in there to report crime that has been committed online, which is a bit different from a modus operandi point of view from the general crimes that we report at your local policing precinct. So we have some challenges, but I hope, pray, and believe that at the end of the day, these Interpol interventions, remember as a retired ambassador for the 10-back crime of Interpol, one engaged with serious people who would understand how these online digital crimes are committed and how to track them. So I know that SAPS and law enforcement agencies will be able to improve. We can do better with resources and focus on cyber security and cybercrime, amongst other things.
Well, you couldn't have said it better, Andy. Even just extending on that point, I wonder what your view is on our current laws beyond law enforcement agencies. Are laws adequate in dealing with this type of fraud and these online scams as well? What are the roles of banks? What are the roles of mobile payment providers as well in what's unfolding in this scamming technological phase that we're finding ourselves in as a country?
There are laws, Lizelle, very effective laws. The challenge is the implementation. What do I mean the challenge is the implementation? Who has the know-with-all to ensure that the law with regard to cybercrime is understood by an ordinary constable or an ordinary Gauteng traffic warden who wants to assist Andy and Lizelle who have just been robbed of their cell phone. So we need to ensure that the ordinary constable at the boots on the ground understand what needs to be done in both preventing and combating that crime. I'm now talking of that detective who's going to go out there and look for a phone. When I arrived at the police station, Lizelle, I was requested whether I had insurance on the phone. I must bring the insurance form. Long story short, I was being told, don't pursue hunting your phone down, claim for a new phone. And that to me was a problem, because I have been involved in community police partnerships and having led at provincial level, at national level. I know I don't want to claim. I want the suspects to be arrested and the device to be found. Also, your service suppliers, they have a responsibility to ensure that they communicate and they interact with the victims as well as law enforcement agencies. The banks must make it easy for us to get our money back when we have been scammed. One woman scammed 5 million rands in Johannesburg from your business email compromise. Bought a house, when payment was done, scammers came in between the bank and the woman and diverted the money into an account that they claim that the bank has changed. So at the end of the day, when people lose this big amount of money, it breaks my heart because I have seen the pain of people who have been broken down by scammers. And I'm thankful to Interpol and South Africa for their regional cooperation, and in the operation of Operation Serengeti, where 300 suspects were arrested between June and August 2025 out of 7 countries, and some gadgets being found, some servers being taken from cyber criminal networks dismantled. So this gives me hope in that space.
Well, Andy, you're touching on the issue of cross-border crime as well, and it's also a big issue that's come to the fore, even just trust in e-commerce and digital transformation in South Africa, given our unique social economic context as well. And so in lieu of that, what are some of the lessons that we could learn from other countries in terms of best practice in strengthening, our frameworks and sort of our modus operandi to ensure that it's decreases, particularly over those intensified periods that you spoke about earlier as well?
Listen, when you invite your Homeland Security services from the US and your Secret Service and your FBI and join forces with the Hawks, you have registered serious successes in arresting the cyber criminal. Maybe what needs to happen is to take a sizable number of our detectives in the country, as well as our crime prevention and visible policing boots on the ground, take them through training so that they can understand the dynamics in terms of the infrastructure, what needs to happen from a technology point of view, in terms of the gadgets and devices and how these gadgets and devices work. Listen, how many of us understand what to do when there is allegedly a birthday special of a big store, online store, as well as the stores that we go to buy our groceries. It's the 50th birthday. For you to be able to get groceries worth 5,000, click on this link. Look at those links. Some of them will be bit.ly. When you click there, you get redirected to a third party. If it was to be Liesel and Andy supermarket, it would be Liesel and Andy supermarket .co.za, so that the people who understand these things, which South Africans must do, can be able to verify. Go online, go to Google and check the URL of Andy and Liesel supermarket, so that you can compare what is on the link and what the true URL address of that big store, Liesel and Andy supermarket is. If there's a difference, don't click on the link. Make sure that you call the store to find out if they have a 50-year anniversary giveaway of 5,000 rand. Imagine how many millions in South Africa would have gone for 5,000. It would have it would have broken the bank or the piggy bank of that store. So when it's too good to be true, walk away from it.
Well, Andy, awareness and consumer education is vital. And so on that note, I'm going to leave the conversation there. I know there's plenty more to explore, but thank you for breaking it down for us and for just giving us some practical tips as well to mitigate against some of the online scams that have recently resurged again, and just issuing that public warning as well.